Hi, it's Bill with a screen recording of how you can use Google Forms with your Google Classroom. So this assumes you're using both together and you're fairly comfortable with the general classroom procedure and Forms procedure. So really there's a 5-step process involved. The first step involves working with our form. The second step is going to Classroom, making the assignment. The third step is the students filling out your form. The fourth step is you scoring the form or looking at it, and then the fifth step, going back to Classroom and returning the form. So let's just look at that procedure in all 5 steps. So let's start out with a form, and here's a form that I've already filled out. You might notice it has some information, it has some multiple choice, it has some short answer, and it also has an essay type question. So I'm probably going to have to manually score this last one for sure, and probably the short answer as well. So first thing I'm going to do is go look at my settings in the form. So I'm going to go to this gear. And I see in my form I wasn't collecting email addresses. That's something, since I'm using Google Classroom, they have to be signed in anyway, so I could certainly easily turn that on. But I more importantly want to come over to this Quizzes tab. So since this quiz that I have, since I've thrown the switch to make it a quiz, I have points and all set up. I can release grade immediately after each question submission. Well, certainly on the essay question, however many points that is, the students are not going to get any points there. Google's not going to score that for me. I have to manually score that. So sometimes that gets students a little upset. They might think they got a lower score or not done that well. So sometimes I will turn on this later after manual review. And then this part, you can leave those on as you choose. I mean, if they missed a multiple choice question, it'll show them the correct answer and things like that. I usually leave that on. But we do encounter a little bit of a problem when we've turned on this later after manual review. It turns on email collection, so if I scroll back up and go to general, you'll see that email got turned on automatically. And Forms wants to send the students back their scores through email. Many districts don't have email enabled for students, and that could pose a problem. So you really have to return their scores through Classroom. So this part looks good. I've gone to Quizzes. I've decided to give them the score after manual review, so no one's going to get their scores until I release them all, and everyone will get their final score after I've reviewed it. They won't get any lower scores or have to change later. So let me save these. All right, so my form is now set up. I'll go back to my classes. I'll use this class. I'll go to my classwork tab. I'll go ahead and create an assignment just like I usually would. I'll call it States Quiz. And here I'm going to go ahead and add from my Google Drive. Here's my recent because I was just using it, so I'll go ahead and choose that. Notice that the grade importing is switched on by default. You should leave that on for sure. That'll let you get the grades in later. And I'll leave these alone. I'll make it due maybe next week. And I'll go ahead and, well, I can make a topic. No topic's fine for this. And I'll just go ahead and assign it. So now it's being sent out to the students, and I have to kind of wait for them to fill out the form and submit it back to me. So let's look at that. Let's look at that next. So here's a student account. So right now I'm logged into a student account. It's in this class. And here's the States Quiz. Kind of came up in my stream, or I could look at it in my classwork tab. If it was closer to being due, it would show up in the upcoming for the students. But I'll just grab it from here. So here's the forms, the demo. I'll just go ahead and click on it. I'll fill it out pretty quickly. These top questions I don't necessarily need because I know from which classroom that they're in. I can figure that out. So I'll just check these answers. Oh, we'll get a couple wrong. Have to be careful of how this one's scored. It is a fill-in. It's a short answer, so Google can score it, but it has to match my answer exactly. And then we'll just pick all these. And we'll fill something in here. and I'll hit submit. So now the student part is complete, and you might notice it didn't score it right away. Had I checked the box when I was setting up my quiz to release information right away, they would have gotten a score. All right, let's go ahead and check back in on the teacher account. So here I'm back on my teacher account. I can look in at my states quiz. One of them is turned in. We'll take a look at that. And I can go ahead and score it. So let me click on it. To score it, I have to be able to edit my form. And I can look at my responses. And if I look at the individual ones, I can see who each person was. And I know that the first few that were in here were demos that I had done at another workshop. So here's the one that just came in. I can look at these at a glance. So Google scored these for me. And since I typed in here Atlantic, it is the correct answer to which ocean is closest to Long Island. It didn't capitalize, and I didn't choose one of my correct answers. So I can manually go ahead and give this person 5 points. These are all incorrect. And maybe we did a great job on the essay or so. I'll just give a score of 8 for this one. All right, now I'll go ahead and save. Now you're tempted to hit this release score button, and let's see what happens when I click on that. If I release score, it would go ahead and show me all the students that I've scored, and the only way I can get that to them is send emails and release. I don't want to do that if student emails are turned off. That isn't going to work. So I'm going to hit close out. That isn't how I'm going to give people their score back. I'm not going to use that release score. I'm going to go back into my classroom. So now that I'm back in classroom, had I scored everyone's the way I had when I was in the form, if everyone had completed it, I can go ahead and notice that there's no score here yet. But if I import grades, it's asking me, am I sure I want to do that? Yes, I am sure. Let me go ahead and import those. So now all the points that this person scored are now here in the grade. The student can see those. They still can't see them just yet, but they will be able to see them if I go ahead and check on them and hit return. Let me not do that just yet. Let's take a look back at that student account just so you can see how that looks at the moment. So here's the student account again. Let me just close out of this. Here's the student in the classroom. If they try to click on their form, it looks like it's submitted. It says unsubmit. I can click on it. They can't really see too much just yet because I haven't returned it to them. It just tells them they've already done it. All right, so let me go ahead, switch back to the teacher account again for a second. All right, so now as soon as I hit return, I'm going to go ahead and return. I can make a private comment to the student, and I'll hit return. Now, as soon as I've done that, one is scored, it's turned in. Let's go back to that student account one more time. Now, when the student goes in on it and tries to check it out, they can see how they did. Since I had in the form checked off that it'll show them the correct answer and their answer. So right here is an example of that. They can see how they did and how I scored on the essay. They can close out when they're done with that. They can still see their score in Classroom. And that's how you can return forms to students using Classroom, even if email is turned off. Hopefully that helped you out. We'll have another video another time. Hopefully everyone has a good day.